Staphylococcus aureus in respect to your bone and soft tissue infection, that is your osteomyelitis and arthritis. So a staph as such is Staphylococcus causes number of infections from soft tissue bone infections to multi-system disease to lung infections, so on and so forth. So what is osteomyelitis? It's a serious infection of bone that can either be acute or chronic. It is basically an inflammatory process involving the bone and its structure, which is caused by pyogenic organism, which can spread through the bloodstream or through fracture or during surgery or after surgery. So most common organisms of osteomyelitis is by the Staphylococcus bacteria. So apart from this is the most common cause of osteomyelitis. Apart from this, there could be other organisms, your Enterobacteriaceae group, anaerobic organisms, Pseudomonas, Haemophilus influenza, the other causes of osteomyelitis, but the most cases of osteomyelitis are caused by Staphylococcus bacteria. Similarly, arthritis, it's inflammation of your joints. So there will be swelling and tenderness of one or more joints. So arthritis can be caused by a number of diseases. Could be infectious or non-infectious. So septic arthritis is caused by bacteria, viral or fungal infections, and among the bacterial causes, Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus is most common cause arthritis as well. So these are the other causes of septic arthritis. You can see Staph aureus is the most common cause, and it can be caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae, if you remember. Must have been mentioned there. Then the streptococcal species, then other gram-negative organisms, your anaerobic infections, anaerobes, your fungal, they can also cause septic arthritis. Even in Lyme's disease, most common cause of monoarthritis. These are the other causes, but you need to remember that Staph aureus is one of the common cause of both osteomyelitis and arthritis. So now coming to the Staphylococcus organisms. So Staphylococcus, it belongs to family Micrococcaceae, and which genera, that is Micrococcus and Staphylococcus. So this Micrococcus is mostly commensal, and they are tetrads in shape. It is the both gram. So Staphylococcus is a gram-positive bacteria. So you should, by now you must have been known that there are two important groups of gram-positive cocci, Staphylococcus and your Streptococcus. So Micrococcus is also a gram-positive cocci, which is skin commensal, and they are arranged in tetrads, and the size is bigger than that of Staphylococcus. So they are of 1 to 1.8 micron in size, and they are not associated with human infection. Then Staphylococcus, most important species, responsible for number of infections. These are arranged in clusters, and important species among the Staphylococcus is Staph aureus. Staph aureus, that is Staphylococcus aureus. This is the most pathogenic species, and this species, it produces an enzyme called coagulase, which forms the basis of coagulase test. So this particular enzyme is used in the laboratory to identify Staphylococcus aureus species. And you do get a question of Staphylococcus on coagulase test as a short note. So Staph aureus, it produces this enzyme coagulase, but there are other Staphylococcus species which do not produce this coagulase enzyme. So they are known as coagulase negative Staphylococci. Cons, referred to as coagulase negative Staphylococcus Staphylococci, and these they rarely are pathogenic to man. So they have been known to cause infection in immunocompromised state, but they rarely causes infection. So Staphylococcus, it was named after Greek words. Staphylae means bunch of grapes, and coccus means berry shaped. by Alexander. Then Rosenbeck in 1884 named the species as Staphylococcus aureus. The important characteristic of Staphylococcus aureus is that it produces pigment. It produces a golden yellow pigment. It's a non-diffusible pigment, which is seen in case of Staphylococcus. So in Viva, you may be asked that name pigment producing bacteria, or when you're given, exercise where staph, culture exercise where staph is the organism. So you must know that it produces a golden yellow pigment. This word, this characteristic golden yellow pigment is used for Staphylococcus aureus. So what are the infections caused by Staphylococcus aureus? So first of all, it is a gram-positive organisms. It is catalase positive. So you know that gram-positive cocci, they can be differentiated into catalase positive on the basis of catalase test, into catalase positive and catalase negative. So negative group is your Streptococcus, which you will be studying in your CVS system, I think. Then another group is catalase positive. So Staph aureus is catalase positive. This is how we differentiate the bacteria in lab. We have to do this catalase test in order to identify. So if it is catalase positive, then it goes towards Staphylococcus. Then, as I told you, Staph aureus per se produces this enzyme coagulase. So we do this coagulase test. It is coagulase positive. It is facultative anaerobe, non-motile cocci, it is non-sporing, and occasionally they can be capsulated. So the size is about 1 micron in diameter. They are cocci. You need to remember they are spherical cocci. And important characteristic which we see is that they are arranged in grape-like clusters. So they are, if you remember your initial lectures, introductory lectures on bacteria. So the bacteria, they have certain the arrangement, on the basis of arrangement you can identify them. So Staphylococcus aureus, staph as such, they are arranged in bunch of grapes. Like Streptococcus, they are arranged in chains. Micrococcus, they are arranged in tetrads. So this particular is arranged in grapes, clusters grapes, and this is due to cell division in Staphylococcus aureus, which occurs at multiple planes. So that is why we get this grape-like structure in this. It produces yellow pigment or nutrient agar, and important thing is they produces beta hemolytic colonies on blood agar. Okay, so hemolysis, there are various types. There are alpha hemolysis, beta hemolysis, and gamma hemolysis. So this produces beta hemolysis. There will be clearing of the media around the colony. This is important thing we need to remember. So if they are grown on blood agar, they will not produce. Why they will produce hemolysis on blood agar? Because the blood agar has blood as one of the components. So hemolysis will be seen, as you know, that is seen on blood agar. So they form a beta hemolytic colonies. That is, there is a clear, totally clear. The media will be the colony. The media around the colony will become very clear. The most virulent strain among Staphylococcus, Staphylococci produces infection. So the Staphylococcus as such produce a range of infection from pyogenic infections to even life-threatening systemic infections in man. So Staphylococcus aureus per se is a very common bacteria, causes number of infections, the range of infections from pyogenic infections to life-threatening infections, very commonly seen in your hospitals. They do causes hospital-acquired infections as well. So this bacteria is very important for you. So how the Staphylococcus causes disease? So it causes infections. The bacteria they gain access to the damaged skin, and through your mucosa or tissue sites, they will colonize the area, adhere, and enter your through extracellular matrix, invade your host mechanisms, multiply, and and produces a disease, causes a disease. Another important mode is by intoxication. So they produces bacterial toxins. So you must be knowing that certain bacteria produces toxins, enterotoxin, exotoxin. It came in your exam also. So staph also produces bacterial toxin, which is preformed. This toxin is preformed and or produced either in the host, and then it causes disease. So it can cause disease through the toxin as well. Now coming to the various virulence factor, this is very important for you. So staph has number of virulence factor. So important ones are like, first is your cell wall virulence factor, your cell wall polymers. It's a gram-positive bacteria, so it has a peptidoglycan like other gram-positive bacteria, and you know that the peptidoglycan layer is thicker in GPCs. So this peptidoglycan, it confers the integrity to the cell, to the structure, and apart from that, it maintains the shape of the bacteria. Apart from that, it inhibits your inflammatory response of the body, and it also has an endotoxin activity. Then there's a teichoic acid, which is there in this on the cell wall. This teichoic acid helps in the adhesion of the cocci to the surface, and it protects the bacteria from the complement mediated opsonization. This is how the bacteria evade the immune system. Then your cell surface proteins, it has protein A. This protein A, it is encoded by gene, SPA gene, and it is present in 90% of human Staph aureus, and it is seen in especially in COV1 strain. So if you remember your antigen antibody reaction, we make use of this property in co-agglutination, in identification with the help of co-agglutination test. So this protein A is it has chemotactic, antiphagocytic, and anti-complementary activities, and it reacts with the Fc region of IgG. So FAB region of IgG antibody remains free. So this FAB, it binds to the antigen. So this is how we make use of this in a co-agglutination reaction. Then apart from this, we have another important factor, which is clumping factor, that is your bound coagulase. So this bound coagulase, it has the property of property to bind fibrinogen. So this particular factor, that is your clumping factor, we make use of this in doing slide test, which I will tell you in next a few slides. We make use of this in the identification. Just give me a second. So this clumping factor, also known as the bound coagulase, and it reacts with the fibrinogen. It binds with the fibrinogen and causes clumping of the foci. right? Then another important is fibronectin binding protein. This also binds to the fibronectin. So these are the cell wall factors. Then we have a coagulase. This is very important. You get a question on coagulase test. So this particular this Staph aureus, there is a two factors I told you. There's a clumping factor which is bound coagulase. It is attached on the cell surface protein. Now this coagulase is an enzyme. So now I'm telling about the extracellular enzyme. So Staph aureus produces this coagulase. It secretes the coagulase enzymes, and it is a principal virulence factor. When this coagulase it comes in contact with the blood, it causes clotting. Brings the clotting of the blood or the coagulation of the blood by the activation of the prothrombin, and which converts the fibrinogen to fibrin. So this clotting, it protects the bacteria from the phagocytosis and other defense mechanisms. And we make the use of this coagulase to do the tube coagulase test, which is positive in case of Staphylococcus aureus. And it is a very important test which we do. If the tube coagulase test is positive, we do two types of tests, light coagulase and tube coagulase. If tube coagulase test is positive, along with the slide, then it is a Staph aureus. So there are certain, these Staphs, since it is a Staph aureus, so it is producing coagulase, so the tube coagulase test will be positive. Apart from the coagulase, there are other enzymes like lipase, which help in infecting skin and subcutaneous tissue. Hyaluronidase, it breaks down the connective tissue, and therefore it helps in the spread of the infection. Then there are protein receptors like fibronectin, fibrinogen. These also facilitate the adhesion of bacteria to the host cell surface. Then it also produces fibrolysin, that is staphylokinase, and this also helps in initiation of spread. So these enzymes, they are basically involved in the adhesion and the initiation of spread of the bacteria in the host cell. So apart from these, they also produces certain toxins. As I told you, this bacteria produces toxins. So these are alpha toxin, beta, gamma, delta, and Panton, Valentine, leukocidin toxin. So, and all these toxins, they impairs the membrane permeability, and they have cytotoxic effect on the phagocytic cells and their tissue cells. So, so these are the toxins like epidermolytic toxin. It causes the blistering of the skin, and it causes Staphylococcus scalded skin disease, skin syndrome, SSS. So this disease is common in children, newborn and children, and here the child will present with blisters. There will be bulla formation, blister formation, and the skin, the outer layer, epidermal layer of the skin will separate. So the denuded underlying skin, it exposes that. The mucous membrane are usually spared in case of Staphylococcus scalded skin syndrome. Then another important syndrome is toxic shock syndrome toxin. So you can get a question on this also as well. This toxic shock syndrome toxin, it induces a multi-system effect. This particular toxin, it has a super antigen effect. You must have read in your immunology lectures. So this toxic shock syndrome, there are two types, TSSP1 and 2, and both the types, they act as a super antigens. And So what are the risk factors of, how this was identified? This was reported basically in women who usually use the vaginal tampons. So, and it is common in both, in men as well as in non-menstruating women. And it can also occurs, after surgery or trauma. So this toxin, it gets absorbed into the circulation, and then since it has a super antigen effect, since it has a super antigen effect, so what will do? It will bind. If you remember the mechanism of super antigen, it binds to the D beta chain of the T cell. I'll show you the picture in my next slide, and it causes cytokine storm. So here the patient will present with fever, mucosal congestion, confusion, myalgia, and so on and so forth. Then enterotoxin is another toxin which induces vomiting and diarrhea. It also has a super antigen effect. Then coagulase, as I told you, converts fibrinogen to fibrin. These are the various toxins which are produced. Now coming to the endotoxin, this toxin is responsible for staphylococcal food poisoning. So this causes food poisoning as well because it produces antitoxin. So this antitoxin, that is the endotoxin, is preformed in the food. So the mechanism of action is very fast. So the symptoms occur within 1 to 6 hours. So here the patient will present with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea after consuming contaminated food within 2 to 6 hours. So if the patient is coming with vomiting, diarrhea, the symptoms of food poisoning. So if we, come to know, if it's very helpful if we can know when the patient has had his food. So in case of staphylococcal food poisoning, the incubation period is very less. So within 6 hours, the patient will present with symptoms. This toxin is heat stable toxin, and it occurs when consuming meat, fish, milk products, your leftover food at room temperature after contamination with the staphylococcus. So there's enough time for the toxin to accumulate, and it has 8 antigenic types. And this toxin, it acts directly on your autonomic nervous system. Now the Toxic-Shock syndrome toxin, I've told you it causes fatal multi-system disorder. The patient will present with fever, hypertension, vomiting, diarrhea, and it is associated with the infection of mucosal or sequestered sites by your PSST producing staph aureus. So it was initially detected in a women using tampons. And it is also known as enterotoxin F. Important thing which you need to remember about this particular toxin is that it has a super antigen effect. So it is a potent activator of T lymphocytes. So as you know, how the antigen is presented to the T cell, this particular, what happens super antigen is that it binds to the V beta chain of T cell. So T cell has chains. So normally antigen will bind in the groove of MHC and is presented to the T cell, but here it is bind to the V beta chain. And this whole system, it causes excessive release of T lymphocytes. There's a cytokine storm which occurs, and this leads to potentially fatal multi-system disease, because there's excessive production of cytokines. So, so what are the clinical manifestations? As I've discussed few of them already. So it causes staph aureus, causes skin and soft tissue infections. Most common cause of various your skin and soft tissue infections such as folliculitis. That is infection of hair follicle. Here it is characterized by pus points surrounded by induration and erythema. Then boil, furuncles. These are painful pustular lesions in hairy and moist region. Then carbuncles, this is severe painful lesion in the lower back region or lower neck region and extended to deeper subcutaneous tissue. Then abscesses, collection of pus, and it's very painful and swollen. The area that it becomes swollen and is surrounded by erythema. Then it causes mastitis and breast abscess in nursing mothers. Then impetigo, it mainly occurs in children, usually appear as a red sores on the face that burst and develop into honeycomb crust. Then very common cause of surgical site wound infections, very commonly seen after surgeries in our wards. Then cellulitis, which is an inflammation of skin and subcutaneous tissue, which usually develops around wound and ulcer. Then hidradenitis suppurativa, it is a recurrent follicular infection which occurs in the apocrine gland, your axilla. Then botryoomycosis, it is a mycetoma-like condition which is characterized by subcutaneous swelling. So these are the various soft tissue infections. Then muscular infections, musculoskeletal infection, septic arthritis, then your osteomyelitis. Most commonly affected site is in children is long bones and in adult is vertebra. Then pyomyositis, mainly in tropical climates, abscess, your psoas abscess, epidural abscess. Then respiratory tract infections, most common cause of your ventilator-associated pneumonia in adults. Then it may cause septic pulmonary emboli, commonly seen after influenza pneumonia, that is causes post-viral influenza. Then empyema, cause of empyema and pneumothorax. Then nematocele. These are cavities form in the lung in neonates. So where the Staph aureus is most common cause. So these are causes of respiratory tract infections. Then apart from that, as I told you, Staph aureus causes a number of range of infections. So these are the infection which it causes. So you can also, whenever you're writing in an answer or in Viva also, please characterize it. Like soft tissue infections may have musculoskeletal, may respiratory, bacteremia, your UTI. Then it can cause septic and septic shock. Then your central line associated bloodstream infections. We use central lines, we use cannulas, we use central line in neck in a hospital in a very sick patient in order to give fluid, medicine, and all. So it is very common cause of CLABSI, the central line associated bloodstream infection. Then metastatic foci of infection involving kidney, joint, bone, and lung. Important cause of infective endocarditis also. Then Staph aureus is the most common cause of native valve endocarditis. Then it also causes prosthetic valve endocarditis. So after prosthetic, after putting a prosthetic valve, it may cause endocarditis. Then intravenous drug use associated endocarditis. Here also on the right side here also the Staph aureus is most common cause. Then your nosocomial endocarditis. So these are the various causes of bacteremia. Then it also may cause UTI. The staphylococcal UTI and pyelonephritis usually occur secondary to bacteremia. Then toxic mediated illness, as I told you, your toxic shock syndrome, food poisoning, and staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome. Then we also have infection with community acquired MRSA. So it is a Staphylococcus aureus which is resistant to methicillin. So इसको बोलते हैं MRSA. So we have community acquired MRSA, we have hospital acquired MRSA. So these are the infections which are caused by community acquired. ठीक है? So skin ears and soft tissue are most common site for colonization of community-acquired MRSA strain, and this may lead to your life-threatening infections. So these community-acquired MRSA may cause necrotizing anemia, sepsis, and necrotizing fasciitis. Some of the causes of community-acquired MRSA. So these are the number of infections which are caused by Staphylococcus aureus. So Staph aureus, it's a part of the normal human flora, and 20 to 40% of healthy population they are carriers of Staph aureus, which can colonize the organism persistently or the transiently. So where most common sites of colonization is your anterior nares. It's a colonizer. Anterior, you'll find in some individuals this present interior nair, oropharynx, skin, vagina, axilla, perineum. These are the common sites where you can find these uh, where this bacteria can colonize. Then these colonization sites, they are reservoir for future infections. And so this it's the rate of colonization is common in individuals who are on dependent on insulin. Uh, then your HIV infected patient, or your injection drug users, and individual with damaged skin. So Staph aureus, it causes your healthcare related infections. So it is very common in hospitals, and uh, even the healthcare professionals, they are potential carriers of Staph aureus, and sometimes a multi-drug resistant Staph aureus. So which is a problem state in hospital. Sometimes the doctors and nurses they have these resistant Staph aureus in their hands, which if spreads you know uh, very quickly in hospital if the hygienic conditions are not maintained. So now coming to the how we will do the laboratory diagnosis of Staph aureus infection. So depending upon the disease. So here since it's a soft and bone infections, so here you will take pus, no, the wound swabs. If it is a respiratory infection, then you will go for the sputum. If it's UTI, you take mixed-stream urine. If it's multi-system disorder, if you're suspecting endocarditis, then one has to take blood samples for blood culture. So accordingly, you will take the sample. If in case of food poisoning, you will take feces, vomiters, or the leftover food. So what we'll do in the lab is after receiving the sample, first thing which we do in all infections, in all bacterial infections, is direct microscopy. So we will do the gram stain. तो ग्राम स्टेन में हमें क्या मिलेगा? मैंने बताया था जैसे ग्रेप लाइक स्ट्रक्चर मिलेगा, तो दे विल बी अरेंज्ड इन क्लस्टर्स. And direct microscopy में you will find these foci in clusters, and along with this you will find the pus cells. Then we'll go for the culture. So it can be culture in nutrient agar where it will show a golden yellow pigment colonies. In blood agar, it will also show golden yellow pigment colonies, and along with the beta hemolysis. So we need to remember that this pigment is non-diffusible. If you read about another organism which produces diffusible pigment, which is a pseudomonas. तो जब भी pseudomonas का वाइवा होता है या कल्चर एक्सरसाइज होती है, तो examiner do ask that what kind of pigment it is. I'll name the other bacteria producing pigment, whether it is diffusible pigment or non-diffusible pigment. So Staph aureus का non-diffusible pigment होता है. And in blood agar, it forms the narrow zone of beta hemolysis, which is best observed in sheep blood agar. Then, apart from this, it also grows in MacConkey. So it is MacConkey agar. It is a lactose fermenter, so it will produce a tiny pink color colonies in your MacConkey agar. Then on your liquid medium, it will form a peptone water. It will form a uniform turbidity. Right? Some bacteria form granular turbidity. So this forms uniform turbidity. Then there's selective media also for Staph aureus, Staphylococcus. That is your mannitol salt agar, salt milk agar, and Ludlam's medium. So these are the selective media which can be used to isolate the Staph aureus. So selective media हम किसमें use करेंगे? We will not use selective media in blood, because in blood generally we will use selective media in those samples which have other bacteria as well, like your feces हो गया, your swab हो गया. Okay, because we have to select out a sample, right? So and they grow at 37 degrees centigrade aerobically, the facultative aerobes. And after growth, what we'll do is we again do culture smear microscopy, culture smear microscopy. That means जो growth आती है उससे हम दोबारा से हम culture करेंगे, identify करेंगे कि वो किस type की growth है, whether it is gram positive or gram negative. This is a protocol which is followed for all the bacteria. So here it is gram positive foci in clusters, you will see. Then after growth आ गई तो फिर we will do the biochemical identification. So as I told you, it is catalase test positive. So it will give a positive catalase test. Another organism which gave a catalase negative is Streptococcus, which you will probably must have been done, or I don't know, maybe in CVS they will cover. So catalase test positive. Then coagulase test, both slide and tube, which is positive. So what is the slide and tube coagulase test? Slide coagulase test is we basically in slide coagulase we detect the your bound coagulase, your clumping factor which I told you. It is on the surface. So उसमें हम क्या करेंगे? We'll take a colony of staph. We will take a slide, put a drop of saline on the slide. We take the colony, we emulsify it on the slide to form a milky white suspension. Then we add a loop of plasma on it, and then we mix it well. So if there's formation of clumps, then it is slide coagulase test positive. But if it remains, milky white, then it is negative. So here in slide coagulase and tube coagulase में यही पूछते हैं कि slide में आप क्या detect करते हो? We detect the bound coagulase, right, which is there on the surface. Now tube coagulase क्या होता है? Tube coagulase होता है, it's an enzyme coagulase which is produced by bacteria, which is secreted by Staph aureus. So we will take the colony of Staph aureus, उसको emulsify करेंगे plasma में. We take a plasma. We take a rabbit plasma or human plasma. So the plasma it has a coagulase reacting factor, that is CRF, which is there in the plasma, which helps in the clotting action of the Staph aureus. So we'll take these colonies, we emulsify it in a plasma in a tube, and we incubate it at 37 degrees for 4 hours. उसके बाद हम ट्यूब को निकालेंगे, and then we'll tilt it. If the clot is formed, then it will not flow when you will tilt the tube. That it is coagulase tube coagulase test positive. Or negative में क्या होगा? Negative coagulase test is that there will be no formation of the clot. So that is your, जब आप tilt करोगे, so whole plasma, the whole liquid, it will flow. So that is your tube negative coagulase. So this is how we perform the tube coagulase test and slide coagulase test. So here important thing is that coagulase per se it requires clumping, coagulase reacting factor, that is your CRF, which is present in rabbit and human plasma. So we have to take plasma which is either of rabbit or human. Guinea pig plasma agar lenge to guinea pig plasma doesn't have this coagulase reacting factor, so it will not form the the reaction, this coagulation. So need to remember that plasma which we take is human and or rabbit plasma because it requires, because the plasma has coagulation reacting factor. Okay. Then we can detect protein A. The protein A, which is there on COVAN, most of the COVAN 1 strain of staph. We can detect it by lattice agglutination, and this is how it will differentiate it from the cons, that is your coagulase negative staph aureus. So apart from this, we can have automated system. We have Vitek system, Marley-Top system, by which we can detect it. Then antimicrobial susceptibility. So this is smear, direct smear. You can see the gram-positive foci, which is there. So direct smear, you will find pus cells. These are the pus cells. You will find pus cells and the gram-positive foci, which are arranged in clusters. And then how you identify it micrococcus is micrococcus का size बड़ा होता है, 1 to 1.8, इसका generally 1 micron होता है, and micrococcus generally tetrads में होंगे. ठीक है. फिर अगर after culture they will appear like this. There will be gram positive foci, obviously with no pus cells because this is prepared from the culture. Now this is a nutrient agar, so you can see the pigment, yellow pigment, and this is blood agar, sheep blood agar. Here you can see the pigment as well as ये जो दिख रहा है clearing, this is hemolysis. So it forms a beta hemolysis, narrow range of beta hemolysis around the colonies. Okay. और बीटा हेमोलिसिस एक और ऑर्गेनिज्म भी प्रोड्यूस करता है, which is streptococcus. तो उससे when you get a culture exercise, उससे आपको डिफरेंशिएट करना होता है कि whether it is staph aureus or whether it is streptococcus, and there are ways to detect it. The colonies, there is a difference in the size of the colony, in the size of the hemolysis as well. ये आपका ट्यूब कोगुलेस एंड स्लाइड कोगुलेस. ट्यूब कोगुलेस, ट्यूब ली, उसमें हमने अपना प्लाज्मा लिया, human plasma or rabbit plasma, and then we put a colony staph aureus and then we incubate it for 4 hours at 37 degrees centigrade. उसके बाद हमने ट्यूब को निकाला and then we tilt it. So if clot is formed, so the clot will not flow. ठीक है. तो ये पिक्चर शायद थोड़ी गलत हो गई है, ये फ्लो कर रहा है, दिस शुड बी नेगेटिव एंड दिस शुड बी पॉजिटिव. जब ट्यूब को आप टेढ़ा करोगे तो क्लॉट विल नॉट फ्लो. ठीक है. एंड स्लाइड में क्या है, दिस इज योर स्लाइड एग्लूटिनेशन टेस्ट जैसा होता है, सिंपल एज दैट. हमने स्लाइड लिया, हमने कॉलोनी ली, उसको मल्टीप्लाई किया, हमने सलाइन में अच्छे से प्लाज्मा डाला, उस पर रोटेट किया, तो ये क्लम्स बन जाएंगे. तो दिस इज योर स्लाइड कोगुलेस टेस्ट. So there is tube coagulase test and slide coagulase test. Staph aureus give both tube coagulase and slide coagulase test positive. Okay. Then apart from this, we can also go for we can do typing. There are methods of typing. There are phenotypic methods as well as genotypic methods. Phenotypic methods we make use of bacteriophage typing. They are phage typing, which which involves differentiation of differentiating strains of Staph aureus into various species. So we can use one of the methods. These are the typing methods, not the identification method. Typing is different from the identification. Typing is which strain of bacteria of Staph aureus is prevalent in that particular ward area. So we can do the typing of Staph aureus in order to typing is done for the epidemiological purpose, which detect this subspecies. Then coming to the antimicrobial susceptibility testing. So they are sensitive to penicillin, G, drug of choice. Then methicillin sensitive Staph aureus, which is MSSA and MRSA. So in case of MSSA, drug of choice is methicillin and cloxacillin, right? And vancomycin is inferior in terms of efficacy against MSSA when compared to the anti-staphylococcal penicillin. So they are generally not prescribed in your MSSA. Then MRSA, that is these Staph aureus are resistant to methicillin. So in this, we give these drugs क्योंकि resistant है, तो इसमें हम vancomycin देंगे, ठीक है? Then for empirical therapy, where the MRSA status is not known, then obviously we will go for the vancomycin with or without aminoglycoside because we don't know the status of MRSA. Then for the oral therapy of skin and soft tissue infections, the one which are sensitive to methicillin, we use diclocoxacillin or cephalexin, cefazoline. In case of MRSA, we use clindamycin, corticotrimoxazole, doxycycline, linezolid. These are the alternative drugs. Then another important thing is drug resistance in Staph aureus. So these bacteria, they produces beta-lactamase enzymes. तो ये एंजाइम्स क्या करते हैं, ये बीटा लैक्टम रिंग है, आपकी बीटा लैक्टम जो एंटीबायोटिक्स होती है, एंटीबायोटिक्स होती है, उस पे एक्ट, उसको बेसिकली the beta lactam drugs will not act on these bacteria Staph aureus which are producing beta lactamase. So these enzymes, they will cleave the beta lactam ring, so they become resistant. Okay, and this resistance is plasmid coded, that is, it transferred between Staph aureus strains by transduction. Okay, resistance होता है क्रोमोसोमली mediated होता है, एक प्लाज्मिड mediated होता है. अगर आप शुरू के इनिशियल चैप्टर्स को रिवाइज करोगे तो उसमें I don't know, I think in antigen antibody, I don't know which chapter, where they mentioned that there's a resistance, drug resistance, which is chromosomally mediated, plasmid mediated. So beta lactamase is plasmid mediated. Okay, so it spreads from one staph to another by transduction, and this can be overcome if we give beta lactamase inhibitor. That is, जो enzyme produce कर रहा है Staph aureus beta lactamase, अगर उसका inhibitor हम डाल देंगे, तो then the drug can act. So that is clavulanic acid sulbactam. अगर कोई Staph aureus है strain, disease cause कर रहा है, उसमें अगर आप beta lactamase producer है, तो we have to give clavulanic acid or sulbactam, the drug which will inhibit this particular enzyme. Then this one they produce beta lactam enzyme. Plus another important thing is that these MRSA strains, they how these are why these Staph aureus become resistant to MRSA. So there is a penicillin binding protein which is there. So when there is alteration in this protein, the bacteria will become resistant to your methicillin. So this MRSA is mediated by chromosomally coded gene, which is MECA gene, and it alters your PBB, that is penicillin binding protein, which is there on the cell membrane of Staph aureus. So PBB को ये PBB change हो जाता है PBB2A. So what will happen? Your methicillin and all, वो तो इस पे act करते हैं. अब इसका change हो गया, so they will not act. So that is why it becomes resistant to MRSA. ठीक है? So this penicillin binding protein, if this gene is there, it will alter this penicillin binding protein, which is important for the binding of penicillin to PB2A. So what will happen? The bacteria will not die if you use penicillin drugs, because the penicillin binding protein is a protein which is essential for the cell wall synthesis of bacteria. So bacteria इसको use करता है अपनी cell wall synthesis के लिए. So your penicillin and all, they act on this one of the mode. So अगर ये alter हो गया, your drugs will not act. So they will become resistant. So this is methicillin resistant Staph aureus, and they have this gene, MECK gene, which is chromosomally encoded. So this altered PB2A of MRSA strain, they have less affinity to beta-lactam antibiotics. So these strains or MRSA strains, they are resistant to all beta-lactam antibiotics. So जिनमें MRSA होते हैं, we cannot give these beta-lactam drugs. They are resistant. So the risk factors are poor hygienic condition, close contact, contaminated materials, individual with damaged skin. So this was about MRSA. So MRSA are two types: the community-acquired MRSA, associated MRSA, and hospital-associated MRSA. So this community-associated MRSA, they expresses MECK gene and it has subtypes. So MRSA की ना बहुत सारे subtypes है, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So जो community-associated होती है वो subtype 6, 7, sorry 4, 5, 6 से होती है, and the strains hospital वाली जो होती है, they expresses MECK gene in subtype 1, 2, and 3. So community-associated are more virulent, and they express this Panton valentine toxin. And and these are hospital-associated MRSA. They are multi-drug resistant, but their virulence is relatively low. Community-associated MRSA, they invade, causes skin, invasive skin and soft tissue infections such as necrotizing fasciitis. And they are hospital-associated MRSA. They causes perioperative wound infections in hospitals, and they common in causing nosocomial outbreaks in the hospital, especially in hospital staff. They are the major carriers of these hospital-associated MRSA. ठीक है, तो आपका ये हो गया types of MRSA. Then how we can detect this MRSA? We can use antimicrobial susceptibility testing. We can use a suboxidin disc or oxacillin disc. हम ये disc use करते हैं for detection of the MRSA, and it's a surrogate antibiotic. These are surrogate markers for the identification of MRSA. So if one has to detect MRSA, then we use this suboxidin drug or the oxacillin drug, the disc. लेकिन methicillin की disc नहीं आती. So, or we can detect this particular gene, MECK gene, with the help of PCR, or we can detect this penicillin binding protein 2A with the help of latex agglutination test. Okay, so you should know the principle of these tests. You know the principle. These are used for, these are general diagnostic methods. So, treatment of MRSA, vancomycin drug of choice. Alternative drugs are teicoplanin, linezolid, daptomycin. These are the newer drugs. So linezolid is useful for skin and soft tissue infections. Daptomycin is needed for endocarditis and complicated skin infections. Then drugs like tetracycline, erythromycin, cotrimoxazole, these are also effective in non-life-threatening staph infections. So in all the cases, important thing is you need to avoid beta-lactam drugs. Okay, and these are the 5th generation cephalosporins, newer drugs which have shown to have some activity against MRSA. We do have resistance to vancomycin as well. That is your VRSA and Visa. Okay, and Visa is basically low-grade resistance. That is your vancomycin intermediate Staph aureus, or high-grade resistance. That is your VRSA. That is vancomycin resistant Staph aureus. And we say that a particular bacteria resistant is having this Visa or VRSA is if Visa is 1, then your MIC to this drug, vancomycin, is 4 to 8 microgram per ml. And VRSA is said when the MICR, that is your minimum inhibitory concentration, is greater than 16 microgram per ml. Then we say it is VRSA. So what is the mechanism of VRSA? We have this VAN-A gene. VRSA is made by VAN-A gene. So there are various genes apart from VAN-A, there are other genes as well. So VRSA is made by VAN-A gene, and VISA is because of increase in the cell wall thickness of the Staph aureus. So vancomycin resistant jo hai, that is because of VA gene, but since VISA is vancomycin intermediate Staph aureus, it is because the cell wall, the thickness of the cell wall increases. And the VAN-A gene is acquired from vancomycin resistant strains of Enterococcus faecalis by the horizontal conjugal transfer. So there is a horizontal conjugal transfer in case of your VRSA. बस दो ही है, बस दो है. So we, in case of VRSA, we can give these drugs on the basis of your antimicrobial susceptibility report. These are the control measures. How we can control the MRSA by screening of MRSA carriers in hospital staff. By treatment of carriers where we can give mupirocin for nasal carriers and chlorhexidine body bath for skin carriers. As I told you, that Staph aureus is common in your nasal nares. Then stoppage of antibiotic misuse in hospital. Then to take proper infection control measures, hand hygiene is most efficient in controlling the spread of these infections, MRSA or VRSA. Now coming to the coagulase negative Staph aureus. तो coagulase negative में एक बहुत सारी species होती हैं, but Staphylococcus epidermidis is one of the species, most common cause of cons and most commonly isolated in the clinical samples. They are normal flora in skin, oropharynx and vagina, and they are also commonly found in prosthetic devices. So the mechanism of pathogenesis is causes adhesion to the prosthetic devices with the help of various virulence factor, and it colonizes it produces extracellular polysaccharide material which facilitate and forms the infection by forming a protective biofilm on the surface device. So Staph epidermidis is most common cause of prosthetic device related infection. Okay, cons में आप पूछे तो Staph epidermidis causes prosthetic associated device infection and is also commonly seen in case of stitch abscess. It is a coagulase negative. ठीक है, तो ये कौन सा है, तो ये coagulase negative test देगा. Coagulase test will be negative in this case. Then another cons is Staphylococcus saprophyticus. It is common in sexually active young women, causes UTI in sexually active young women, and we identify it in the lab with the help of a drug. Then Staphylococcus lugdunensis, Staphylococcus shelfie. These are the other which causes diseases like your endocarditis and osteomyelitis due to expression of various virulence factors like clumping factor and so both these will show your slight coagulase test positive, but they will be tube coagulase test negative. That is why they are known as cons, coagulase negative Staphylococcus. Okay, Staphylococcus aureus name, Staphylococcus. You need to remember the cons word. You need to remember Staph aureus. You need to remember MRSA क्या होता है. You need to remember coagulase. I think I'm done. You need to remember coagulase test. You can get a short note on coagulase test. You can get a short note on even clumping factor, slight coagulase test. Okay, and the infections, various infections, and yes, virulence factor. Virulence factor भी important है इसमें. इस chapter में से टॉक्सिक शॉक सिंड्रोम, टॉक्सिन, इस पे भी क्वेश्चन आता है, राइट? तो इसमें क्वेश्चन आता है, तो यू नीड टू राइट अबाउट सुपर एंटीजन. तो यस, so I will end my lecture here. Thank you.